Hello YouTube, I'm Brent and I'm going to be talking about enlightenment today. It's going to be kind of a continuation of the first video that I made about being a good person, and I mentioned enlightenment, and I think they're kind of one and the same and very deeply connected to each other, so I think the next follow-up is teaching about enlightenment. So I'm going to kind of talk about what it is and how I achieved it. In a quote, enlightenment is like a wave realizing that it's part of the ocean. And that's what humans are. Humans are just part of the universe. We're just branches of the same tree, in a sense. We're unique. We're all unique. We're all different. There's no one branch that's the same. There's no leaf that's the same. They all have their unique characteristics, but on a deeper level, they're all the same. They're all connected in a deeper level. So we're all just branches of the same tree, and that's the point of enlightenment. Is just realizing that you're part of all this. And with enlightenment, it's realizing that there isn't really like a past or a future. Those are just ideas. Those are abstractions. That only came with our ability to plan as an evolutionary adaptation, to plan for the future. If you look at other animals, pretty much the entire animal kingdom besides human beings, they all just kind of live in the now. Like you don't suddenly just see a dog like sitting and then suddenly he's in a bad mood. Like, the bad mood probably came from something immediate, like right at that moment. Either he was like abused or hurt. But you don't see animals just suddenly change moods. Unlike humans, they just live in the now. There's no planning for the future. They just take everything as it comes, and that's what we're supposed to do. We've just made life 10 times more complicated by planning ahead and realizing that our existence is finite. Most other animals don't realize that their existence is finite, and that's one of our problems. I know about probably 10 to 15 people who I think would agree with me on this, and have learned probably the same lessons that I have. And I don't know all of them personally. I probably know maybe two or three people in my entire life who probably agree with me on this. And they are wonderful people to be around. They're exciting, they live in the moment, there's not like a hesitation, like they don't live in fear is the thing. Like, the problem with planning ahead is people start to live in fear of what might happen to them, but dogs and other animals don't. I reference dogs a lot because I've been raising a puppy for the past like year and a half now, and I love him to death. And it's been such a treat to watch him grow and create a relationship with him that's just made of pure love, and unconditional love is the key term here. Enlightenment and unconditional love are pretty close together. And that's the point of becoming enlightened, is just learning how to love unconditionally and love your neighbors and love other humans and other animals. Just love the earth, love this whole experience that you have, and be appreciative. Like, people kind of take for granted that the fact that they're alive, and they live out of fear, and they don't pursue adventure or challenge themselves, and what a waste. Like, what a waste that would be to not live your life as richly and as fully as possible. And that comes with living in the moment, just listening to your body. The deeper lesson that I want to talk about here with enlightenment is understanding what dualities are. And dualities are like on and off, black and white, left and right. Like, there's always two sides to a coin, right? And enlightenment is just bridging the gap. It's understanding that they're two sides of the same coin. And when I was about 12 years old, I watched this show called Avatar: The Last Airbender. And it's like a Nickelodeon Japanese manga cartoon, and it's literally all about the purpose of the show is a boy's journey to enlightenment, and he meets all sorts of gurus and spiritual leaders that help him along his way and teach him lessons that are important and fundamental to his spiritual awakening. And when I watched that when I was about 11, 12, and I watched it a couple times through, and I didn't actually reach enlightenment until I was about 17. But that was the building blocks. Like, that got me going on the right path. And from that point, I had a few more influential people in my life and in events. And I grew up Christian, and I had always been skeptical. I never knew. I had a very scientific brain, and when I heard the stories of the Bible, like Jesus, like being the Son of God and resurrecting and curing leprosy and turning water into wine, I had a pretty minimal understanding of physics or the laws of physics, but I knew that those things weren't possible. And if they were possible, then they could be repeated, they could be replicated, and it's not. They're just not replicatable. It's not possible. But that's not even important. The important thing is that Jesus was the Son of God in a metaphorical sense. All these religions, Judaism, Catholicism, Christianity, Islam, Buddhism, Hinduism, they're all religions, but they're all branches of the same tree. And they all try to teach the same lesson, and that's how to love, how to unconditionally love, and be appreciative of the life and not take it for granted. And I think I've reached that point. I still struggle, and life is literally the ups and the downs. Like, you can't have a life without downs. You can't have ups without downs. You wouldn't know the difference if you didn't know if there was two different sides of the same coin. You wouldn't know. You would just live in the moment. Like, everything would just be an experience, which is the point. And that's what all other animals think of in this world. It's just an experience. We're just here to take it all in. And we're not, us humans, we're not just thrown into this world all of a sudden, and we're not part of it all, and we're not like, we're individuals all separate trying to navigate our own pathways, and we're all crossing and like getting in each other's ways or whatnot. Like, no, it's just this one big force moving together. Like, we're all on this big rock floating in the vastness of space, just moving together. And taking one side is inaccurate. To claim that a coin is made of a heads and not a tails is completely inaccurate and false. And that's the point I'm trying to make here, is that when you look at your life, you can't just claim that one side was better or worse than the other, or one experience was worse or better than the other. Because that's an abstraction due to your emotions, due to your filtering processes. Like, the ego that you develop, the idea of yourself is not the same as who you feel on the inside. Because from the moment you're born, you don't even really know who you are or what you feel. But people are telling you from the moment that you're born who you are. Like, they're telling you from their perspective, but not your own. Your own perspective might be completely different. And it's important to bridge that gap between who you think you are and who you feel on the inside. And once you can make peace with that, I think you can make peace with the dualities. I think you can make peace with nature versus nurture, and realize that not only are you this body as part of all this, but all of this is part of you. All of this around you is part of your experience. If you talk to a psychologist, they're never going to tell you that this person is strictly nurture or strictly made of nature. Like, it's always like a non-stop integral relationship between the two. And that's us with the outside world, and the outside world is part of us. And so I reached enlightenment when I was about 17, and I remember the day. I remember just having this crazy epiphany walking down the hallway and at school. And I was walking to one of my classes, and I just had to stop for a second. I went, wow. I was like, wow, I'm part of all this. Like, this is me. This is all me. Like, I'm no different than this. Like, again, we're all branches of the same tree. And Alan Watts is one of my favorite philosophers. He was a philosopher in like the 70s, and he died, I think, of like a drinking problem. And the irony is that even though these people who are enlightened, these gurus and these spiritual leaders, even though they're enlightened and they can control their emotions and all that, doesn't mean that they're any different from anybody else. Nobody's perfect. Like, no matter how enlightened you are, you're still gonna make mistakes, and people are still gonna, you're still gonna probably step on somebody's toes or hurt yourself in some way, shape, or form. And that, like, the point is being transparent about it, is being honest about who you are. And and most people that I know aren't honest about who they are. When I look somebody in the eyes, I know that I'm looking at the universe. Like, I know what I'm looking at. But they try to tell me what they think that they are. They think of themselves in this way, and the way that I look at them is the way that they feel on the inside, I think. I just look at them as just a person in the same way that I am. And I look at myself and I feel no different from anybody else. I don't think I'm better or worse. I just think I'm just as much a part of this ocean, this universe, as the wave, or as everybody else. So Jesus himself, the things that he tried to teach was that it's okay to be imperfect. The point is that you have to be transparent about it. You can't act or try to portray yourself as perfect, because you can't bullshit a bullshitter. Like, I can see people's actions, and people make mistakes. Obviously, like, I make mistakes. Everybody makes mistakes. Jesus made mistakes. And, like, it's just understanding that that's just part of being a human being. And morality really comes from the culture that you're born into. Like, cultures are not the same. People all around the world value different things. Some people value family. Some people value money. But they're all part of the same force. We're all on this big rock moving together. We're all going to the same place, basically. And this actually would be a good transition to the next video, is talking about the afterlife, and talking about what heaven really meant in the Bible. Because I think it's important to bridge the gap between religion and philosophy. Because some people might only believe in religion, and some people might only believe in philosophy. But to say there's only one side of the coin is incorrect. You know, they're both very important sides to the same coin. So I think that'll be my next video, is talking about the afterlife, what I believe, and that's pretty much it. I can talk about all the lessons that I've learned, and I hope to make a video about all the lessons that I've learned. So again, I'm Brent. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you later.